Richard Wolff now joins us from New York City. He's an economist and currently a visiting professor in the graduate program in the International Affairs of New School University. Sir, welcome to the show and thank you. You heard a bit about what's being discussed. I'm more curious about what the message was that Jack Liu was bringing basically from President Obama. What message was that, do you think?
I think it was a quite different message from the pleasantries and the diplomatic language of your previous commentator. That was, I think, for public consumption. The United States and China have a very complicated and delicate relationship. To be blunt and to be direct, the United States wants from China the provision of very inexpensive goods into the United States to make more money for American corporations by switching from high-cost American workers, basically, to lower-cost Chinese workers, and that's been going on for a long time. China, for its part, wants all of this to happen too because it'll allow them a much more rapid industrialization, which is what they want, than they could have without it. So each side is using the other for its own agenda and will maintain good relations so long as both sides get what they're looking for. The problem is, both in China, but particularly here in the United States, the consequences of this relocation of business out of the United States and to China is having effects on the standard of living, on the working people of America, and a certain kind of pushback is building, and that could distress and disturb this relationship so it isn't quite as polite as both sides would wish it to be.
Professor, you mentioned some of the pushback. You mentioned what the U.S. wants, what China wants. In this particular case, we're now well away from the political rhetoric that we've heard from the United States. So that side has calmed down a bit. The renminbi discussion seems to have been put on the back burner. Is it possible with new leadership in China that they can reset those discussions and perhaps there's a new chapter in that relationship?
Yes, I think that the Chinese understand that the depth and the duration of the crisis in the West, as it exploded in Cyprus over this last weekend, as it's been percolating both in Europe and the United States, has very serious implications for that part of China's future that depends on exporting to just those parts of the world that are in such turmoil. If that turmoil continues, as many of us think it will, it is going to put very severe strains on that relationship because the United States will not be able to provide the markets and Europe won't either, that China needs, and that in turn will put difficulties on China that they will try to push off onto the West. And you put those things together, and the rosy comfort that sometimes exists could very quickly turn into its opposite.
Professor, this relationship is somewhat new, to be fair. I mean, Jack Liu is new in this position. You've got new leadership in China. For 2013, for the rest of the year, is there an area where they potentially could have some significant compromises and some significant progress?
Yes, I think that if the Chinese permit a further appreciation of their currency, it will ease some of the political pressures here. If the United States can figure out a way, and it hasn't done it yet, to build up the purchasing power of the mass of its people, so that they can buy more goods from China, which they would do if that happened, then you would get the kind of synergy that both sides have benefited from for many of the recent years. But if those things don't happen, then 2013 will be difficult on both sides.
Timothy Geithner, the previous Treasury Secretary, took a somewhat harder stance, especially when it came to currency issues and also a number of economic issues. Is Jack Liu going to, will he start sort of a new approach, or is he going to be much more of the same from the previous Treasury administration?
I expect pretty much the same. As I said at the beginning, it's a very delicate dance. Both sides need each other, benefit from each other, but they don't really have great confidence in how long that mutual benefit will exist. And each one is looking for a quick escape when that happens, both for political reasons and for salvaging an economic situation which is already dire in the West and which could become so in China if the West cannot play the role that this synergy has built up over the years.
Professor Wolff, a delicate dance, at least they're dancing. Thank you very much for joining us live from New York.